Hi everyone, so this is another episode of Tradpro and I'm Nkechi Jalo, your host. I just wanted to jump in today on the topic of male accountability. So for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I would suggest that you pause this video, run to the bio of this podcast and just kind of like read a little bit so that you're not just like lost on what Tradpro is, because it kind of is a term that me and my partner just made up. It was birthed out of a conversation where he was like, you're so trad, you're so like trad, you're like more trad than TradCon women, but you're progressive. So like, what is that? And he's like, I guess you're like trad pro. And that is kind of how it happened that the word came about. So if you don't know what traditional progressive, trad pro, if you're like, what is this? Read the bio. It kind of like gives an outline of my thesis on Tradpro, how I see it. And I think that there are other people on the left, I'm not going to say liberals, but like progressives on the left, who also see it in a similar sense that traditional values within the home, within a family, or within a relationship, traditional meaning like the man's the protector, provider, the woman's the homemaker and caregiver and nurturer. People that see those roles as being valuable to society can also be on the left politically, can be progressive, and that's fine. Like, it shouldn't be a shamed thing on that side of politics. So, and in fact, it's not just a cisgender heteronormative type of thing. In my thesis or definition, I see it as anyone who finds fulfillment in that traditional dynamic. So you could be a cis woman, you could be a trans woman, you could be a femme guy, you could be like whatever gender expression, your gender expression aligns with part of that traditional family values structure. And that's where you find your joy and happiness in that nurturing, caregiving, empathetic, submissive partnership with your significant other. And they find their joy in the providing, protecting, and kind of the more dominant side of the balance. So just wanted to recap on that. Now, today's episode is not about the definition of Tradpro. Today's episode is, I just kind of like wanted to send you guys the bio for that, is about male accountability, because we could start a whole movement for trad women on the left and, trad pro women, but like, if there's not the balance, if there's not a partner who's going to also fill the other role, then how is that going to work? So as somebody who's dating and is trad, this sucks, because it's really hard to like be in it, but not really in it, right? So you're not like a trad wife, you're more just like a trad girlfriend. And that means you're part-time. Everything's part-time, unless you're like living together. But if you're not living together and you're not married and there's not like that shared household, then it's a little bit complex. And there's kind of like a window of time in which that can last, and kind of, you can sort through things and decide if you want to be in that shared space and make this union work for the long term, or if you maybe should give somebody else a chance because this is probably like not going to work. So there's that kind of like trial period, and that is the shitty part. That's where it sucks, because you can't really be just one role. Because guess what? Unless like you're really creative with it. But I have not seen that, and I haven't experienced that, because I've never had a partner like pay all my bills or provide in such a way that offsets my time, frees up my time so that I can like, take care of both households or whatever. So I've just never experienced that and plus it's like 2 households. So that's like double the work for both people, twice the bills, twice the cleaning, twice the, like all the things, furniture, dishes, So it's just like, I don't really feel like that works long term. I think it's just kind of like a transitory phase where it's like the vetting process and you're trying to figure out like, is this gonna shake out? But so one thing that I was just thinking about this past week is just that like accountability for the guys, because there are a lot of guys out there laid out on their bed watching TV and be like, where's the wife that's gonna cook for me and clean for me and do all this stuff? And it's like, okay, well, but what are you doing to prepare for your role as a protector and provider? What are you doing to, be your best self showing up in that role as well? Because she could show up and cook and clean and all this stuff, all day long, but like what, who's going to pay the bills and who's going to make her feel safe and protected and, supported? Emotional support is part of this situation. Like you can't just, go to work and pay some bills and that's it. That is not like the 50-50. The provider and protector there's a breadth of providing and protecting as well as a breadth of supporting and nurturing. So where's the male accountability? Because I see a lot of the, like in the manosphere or whatever, a lot of guys preaching all this stuff about how women need to be this and this and this, but are they really stepping up to be their best selves within the trad dynamic? That's my question. And if they're not, then what do we do as women to decide like if this is going to work or not? And at what point does the like long suffering get a little too long or too much suffering? So where do we draw the line? So that's kind of what this episode's about. One of the main things that I think that I have learned, I'm 47, so I've got, these other podcasters and YouTube people that are in their 20s. It's like cool, but like twice the life perspective. So everybody's perspective is valid. However, I see a lot of the 20s, maybe 30s, but a lot of in the like mid to late 20s influencers out there on the trad kind of like wagon. And I think that it's interesting because there aren't a lot of the like late 40s, early 50s women out there kind of like throwing their weight around and saying like, their wisdom, not like weight as in like fighting, but just like throwing their perspective into the circle. So for what it's worth, one of the things that I think is super important is as women, we need to really observe our partner's actions. So not just once, not just twice, but like over time. So you've always got to give it time. At least, I would say like at least 3 months of a window for a very mature person who is very insightful, self-aware, and aware of all the dynamics. I think that can be enough time. Now, it's not always enough time. If it's long distance, that's certainly not enough time. But if you are up in each other's space fairly often and you live in the same town or city and you're able to really observe behavior over time, I think that, 100 days or so is enough to give you a good sense of like if there's potential or if this is something that, there are mismatched needs here and it's not going to really sync and work out. So action is what we're going to value over promises. And I think that there are a lot of guys like to talk a big game, and this is like guys in a broad sense, applies to lesbian lovers too. Like showing up with the U-Haul on the second date, that kind of thing, like lots of, commitment and promises and things like that verbally, but I guess showing up with the U-Haul is actually an action. But there's that like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be there for you, I'm going to always, forever, never, these kind of words, right? And it's important to like watch what happens after those things are said. So if somebody promises you that they're going to do something, like I'm going to make this up to you, or I'll do better next time. And then the next time comes around and it's just always like, well, the next time and the next time. And then as the woman, you kind of, or as the partner, you kind of like get like a little numb to it. Like you start to kind of hear their words as like blah, 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 but you don't take them seriously because they've proven that they're not, they're not going to keep their word. So each promise that is not kept lowers the level of trust and lowers, therefore, the level of stability and safety that woman or sub partner is going to feel less protected, less like stable, less safe, because you cannot unpack your suitcase and relax if this person is like unreliable, right? And so if they say they're going to do something and they don't do it, how are you going to be able to trust? So I think definitely we're going to value actions over promises. It says, like actions speak louder than words and that kind of thing. And like seeing is better than hearing. And there are a lot of sayings that kind of back that up. But that financial, physical, and emotional investment from the provider and protector should be there. So you're going to watch for, is your partner showing up to provide, or is it just like 50-50, like you're still paying for half of the things, or you're maybe paying for more of the things that are invested in your time together? Or is it like he's actually stepping up and providing, and it's like easier for you, not harder for you, or not just like equal? Because if it's equal, you might as well be going out to eat and you're paying, you're splitting the bill. That's kind of the same thing. If you're putting out more resources, more time, more effort, or equal effort, resources, time, it should be equal effort, but it shouldn't be equal in terms of the providing and protecting, and in terms of the homemaking and mothering and nurturing. Those things are not going to be equal unless you're in a modern relationship where you're just like not traditional roles. So if you're in a trad union, then my role is the kids, my role is the food, my role is the homemaking, domestic arts, massaging my man's feet, whatever. That's my role, is like nurturing and taking care of the household and the people in the household. And his role is to provide the house, but also like to provide the sense of emotional stability and peace and protection and safety. So yeah, financial stability, emotional absence can be also, a red flag. So if he's emotionally absent, he should be emotionally present and providing emotional stability. Financially, he should be stable, not unstable. If your partner is not standing up for you publicly, or in the very least like privately, but like in front of other people and supporting you and like protecting you in that sense, that's also they're coming up short. So that would be an example of like, okay, you say you support me and you want to protect me and everything, but when I am, you're not fighting for me in front of people. You're not like being by my side publicly. So like, what is that? Like, how am I supposed to feel protected? So anyway, those are some examples of if things are kind of falling short, then we want to pay attention to the actions and not just the promises and the words. So that's number one. I would also say that, and it's not necessarily like your partner's fault or they're a bad person or whatever. Some people are just not self-aware enough to know that they're falling short in these areas. Some people have a lot of anxiety. Some people have like conflicting values. They don't even know if they want to be trad or not. They like the idea, but like when it really comes down to doing their part, it's kind of like neutral. Like, I don't know, like I'm in, I'm out. I kind of want to do it sometimes, and then I kind of don't want to do it sometimes. And so like then your partner has to flex with that. Like, oh, okay, you're not being trad now, so I have to like be everything, and now you are, and it's like it can get kind of like confusing. So there are various reasons why people do things, and it doesn't make the person a bad person. It just would mean that it's not a good fit for the two of you if the promises are not, leading to actions. And also if there's that sense of like insecurity and ambiguity, and you feel uprooted all the time. Like, are they going to be here? Are they not going to be here? Like, what's happening? And you're not really sure. You don't really feel stable. So open communication is essential. I was talking to my one of my adult sons about this this week, and like expressing your needs as a partner, super important. But like, how many times is it your job to like express your needs and express your needs and express your needs? And then like, if the person is like, yeah, at what point, if they're not coming through or they're not really getting it, do you like walk away? If you're dating, if you're married, at what point then do you seek professional help? Right? So I think it's kind of like very kind of like you feel in limbo when your partner is like a part-time trad person. And I think that it's hard, like a part-time protector, part-time provider, and like you just like figuring out where you got to pick up the pieces and when, and then also trying to like hustle and do your part as well, like full-time. But then so observing behavior over time is critical. Open communication, super important, but not just communicating to communicate, but watching for those actions to back up the understanding or the claimed understanding of what you're expressing. So yeah, and then also I'd mention like the third point, openness is different than honesty. This is something my oldest son talked to me about years ago. I mean, he's talking about like when he's married now, but at the time when he was like, the wife that I want, like I want openness. I don't just want honesty, because honesty is kind of like the minimum effort. Basically, like you're asked a question and you're like, yes or no or whatever. That's like honesty. Instead, like if you're asked a question and you're listening for like why the person is really asking you, you expound, you share, you're vulnerable. Or even if the person doesn't even ask you, you just share like out of courtesy, like, I want to go do this, instead of just like going and doing it and then telling them like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do this. Like talking to them, like, do you want to come? Can we do something together? Like, how do you feel about it? Do you have something else that you could be doing while I'm doing this or whatever? Openness means sharing, expressing, giving more than just the minimum. Honesty is like, I've heard people say like, I'm an open book. Ask me anything you want. Sometimes you don't even know what to ask. Like you want to know this person, but you just don't want to be like, okay, here's 100 questions. Let's just go through these. Because there might be some things that come into play in your relationship that you didn't think to ask, that person experienced in other relationships or when they're a kid, that are super influential in how they behave or how they feel. But you would have no way of knowing what to ask. They would have to just share that. So that is openness. Sharing important, core, crucial information about yourself, being vulnerable. That is intimacy. Openness is intimacy. Honesty is just like a business transaction. Like you're like, yep, cool. I didn't lie to the person, but I still didn't tell them everything. But they didn't ask about that. So like, it's fair, right? Openness is not meant for the entire world, but openness should be with your intimate partner, in my opinion. So open communication. I would also say like, how long does long suffering need to go? Even if you're married, number one priority is your safety and the kids' safety. Your health and safety, the kids' health and safety, that's number one. And anything else that happens around that is kind of like, the little stuff isn't as big a deal, but health and safety is non-negotiable, right? So if something that your partner is doing is jeopardizing your safety in real time, like for real, not just like, well, kind of, maybe, sort of, then that, like, you can't stay in an environment. Your job as a mother is not to keep your kid in an environment that is toxic and unsafe. Not just toxic with drama, but like unsafe, unhealthy. Like they are being physically, their health is being affected, and their safety is at risk. That is non-negotiable. I think anybody, hopefully in any religion, but again, Tradpro isn't really rooted in religion, but I hope that anybody who is a mother would understand, like, to get out of that situation with the kid, like to just do whatever it takes to get safe. So that is that's a huge priority. And again, we're talking about how are men held accountable. Sometimes it doesn't really hit home until you leave. That like, oh, she really, is feeling unsafe, or like, oh, like they're not going to put up with this craziness because I'm not being the protector and provider, so maybe I need to get my shit together, or I might lose the best thing that ever happened to me, this, wife and child or whatever. So, and then the other thing is, like, on the note of when is the right time to like leave, I would say that sometimes relationships, and this has happened in my life, sometimes you form like these really bad habits. Like it's just maybe timing, like when you met each other and something was going on in your life, and like you kind of like just, like a COVID relationship or something. I didn't have one of those, but I'm just going to use that as an example. Like you're like partnered up during COVID, but then like real life after COVID and that little like staying in an apartment situation doesn't work out. And like actually bringing them around your friends and your family is kind of like weird. And you're just like, why was I thinking this person was my person? So I think that sometimes like the best thing that you can do is to leave. If it's an unhealthy dynamic where maybe you're just there for sexual chemistry, maybe some other random thing pulls you together, but you continuing to drag it on and make it last, trying to make it last forever, is actually not just, messing with your mindset and your growth, but it's also going to hold that other person back. And that was really freeing for me when I was in a very manipulative relationship, to actually know that, like, if I remove myself, to realize like, oh, if I remove myself from this relationship, it's actually going to help that other person too. Yeah, I want to do it for me, but like, you're also like not doing them a disservice. It's actually good for them too, because you're kind of like an enabler in a sense. If they're addicted to that power and control and manipulation and whatever, if you peace out, then it's like, what are they going to do? Who are they going to manipulate and control and have power over? So I would just say like, yeah, the best thing you can do sometimes for your partner is to go bye-bye and let them, hit rock bottom or whatever. And like, that will be their turning point in understanding like, whoa, I was not the best. Why was I not showing up as my best self for this person? Let me do better for the next person. But if you go back, a lot of times you just fall back into that rut, back into that same habit pattern. That person is never going to be their best self with you, but they might be better with somebody else because they have a chance to like start over, and they don't have that like constant reminder of, I yell, you slam the door, whatever the case is, like things happen, just like a habit. And it just like, if you've repeated that hundreds of times, it's just like you carved a steep rut. It'd be better to pick up your car and put it on another road. You could drive a lot better than staying there in those ruts that you've carved deep. So anyway, last thought for the day on this whole like how long do you stay? How much does the woman put up with, or the long suffering thing? And then also like, how do we hold the guy accountable? If we're the submissive partner, how do we really how does that work? And one of the things that I was watching this past week, like there's this YouTuber Pearl something, and she has like a YouTube channel. She's like in her 20s, but anyway, she was saying like, oh, women don't sacrifice anything. She's kind of like an anti-feminist, but like women don't sacrifice anything in a relationship. And I was like, huh? Like what? Like a trad woman does. I'm sorry, but I have never been in a relationship where I didn't actually sacrifice more than the other person, unless it was a relationship with a woman. Because I feel like women are like maybe more self-aware. I don't know, not all women, but or maybe I'm just a giver. I don't know. But like, there has never been a time when, like if you bring it up, the guy's like, oh, well, I did this, I did that. And it's like, I am not going to go there, because that's going to like probably, be hurtful to his ego to be like, actually, but if you want to, do you want to get our bank accounts and actually look at all the things that we have done financially for the other person, and all the time, let's tally up the time that I've taken out of my life to do something for you, whether it's cooking, cleaning, whatever, versus when did you stop your day and do something for me or whatever. Like if we're going to really like tally it up, there's just no way that a guy is going to be doing more than a trad woman in a relationship, as far as like effort in cooking, nurturing, showing up with like just being thoughtful, like with little things, like how can I make his day better? And yeah, it would be cool. It's ideal if it's like equal effort, again, like separate roles, but equal effort within your role. But yeah, like I just don't necessarily, in a marriage, I think that there's more of that equality, because if the man's actually the provider financially and the protector like physically, and he's physically there, and or the masculine girl or whatever, whoever the dominant partner is, then you feel like safe. You have like, okay, the lights aren't going to get turned off, things are going to be covered, you can like relax. But yeah, I just feel like there is just no way that women don't sacrifice. I want to hear from other women. Is there like a woman out there that just isn't giving anything? And if it is, then she's not trad. There's just no way. Like if a woman's like, oh, I just, like he pays all the bills, he does all these things, and I'm just, and she's not doing anything, like she's not cooking, she's not cleaning, she's not like meeting his needs, like she's not like making that equal effort, then that's not trad. That's like some lazy trad of like, I just want a guy to provide for me. I just want maybe more than one guy to provide for me. I just want to like run that scam on one or more guys so that I can just get stuff and get bills paid and just make, go on trips and do all these things. I don't get that. Because that's like sheer manipulation, and that's like flipping the script on what feminism complained about that guys do, is like manipulate and use you and stuff like that. Well, women can do that too. And pretty soon, you're co-signing on all her stuff, and like, I don't know, women can do that, but like women can leverage their beauty, women can leverage sex, women can leverage whatever. But like, if there's not this picking up equally of the roles, then it's not trad. Let's just be real. So, if a woman is not sacrificing anything, that is not a traditional, I don't even care if it's dating, it's not a traditional relationship in any form. She's gonna like show up with stuff. She's gonna like make sure he's fed and fucked and like his house is clean. Like she's gonna be available and like in his ear about like, can I do anything for you? Like, I'm still here. Like, what else can I do? Because that's just like what a nurturer does. So I don't know. But it's also a lazy trad thing for a guy to be like, I just want somebody to cook for me and clean for me and fuck me and do all these things. And like, I'm just going to sit here and watch TV all day and like, maybe go to work and then watch TV, but like I'm not going to actually like invest in her or, you know, protect, provide for her. I just want like to be able to chill and have like a woman doing everything for me, serving me basically. You know, like massaging me, feeding me, doing all these things. That's more like having a mom, and that's more like having like a or a maid, a mom, or whatever. That's not like an equal partnership. So don't be lazy trad, okay? Like don't be a lazy trad guy. Don't be a lazy trad woman. Don't just like want to not have to pay your bills and that's it. No, don't just be like, I just want somebody to cook and clean for me and always give me sex when I want it. That is not like traditional. Like we're talking about core values of like, we're going to build something together. We're going to be there for each other. We're going to show up. It just so happens that we're going to show up in very defined ways. That's all trad is. Like, I'm going to show, like, you don't have to worry about this because it's going to be handled. I'm going to do that. I'm going to show up and do that. You don't have to worry. That's off your plate. You'll never have to worry about this thing, right? And that then frees you up to do the other thing so that you can like stay in your lane and excel at that, and they can like excel at their thing, and it just like works. There's balance, there's equal effort, there's equal value, just different jobs, just different roles, right? And then you can both like come together and hopefully uplift the community, help others, do all those kind of things. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of like drop that little thought because I think there's a lot of like trad wives and trad women and TradCon and like trad blah, blah, blah. But then like in the manosphere, there's not a lot of like, you know, guys need to be accountable too. It's just like, oh, like women need to do this and this and this. And there aren't a lot of women that are kind of saying like, well, what about when what happens if we're with a partner who is not being the protector and provider and is not like showing up emotionally and financially and just like not putting that like equal effort in and really investing. So I feel like that's kind of where like we need something. I don't know. Like as a submissive partner, sometimes it's really hard to speak up. And then if you like speak up and you get either shot down multiple times or else they're like, oh yeah, the promises, right? And then like they don't come through with actions, you kind of just start just not speaking up anymore. Because like what difference does it make? They heard you, but they didn't do anything about it. And then they heard you again and then again and again. So like, why waste your time? Why waste your effort? Why just, you know, might as well just like accept that they're just not going to ever do that. Whatever it is that you're asking them to do, it's not going to happen unless maybe one of their guy friends is like, bro, like from man to man, like you really need to do this for her because you are slacking. So yeah, hopefully guys are out there holding each other accountable. But I think that to some extent it's hard for a submissive partner to feel the agency to challenge in an account out of respect, like total like respect, but like that sense of like, if I'm gonna keep showing up for you, like you've got to show up for me too. Like it's got to be a team. Like you've got to like, you can't just have like one person doing their role and the other person is just like popping in and out whenever they want to like be in their lane and then like just absent and then whatever. It's just, you know, fair is fair. And you're not going to have, just like on a team, you could have like a crappy player that only practices once in a while, and you got a player that's like dedicated every day. Doesn't matter what their positions are, really, like their lane, their role, their job. Like if somebody is not doing their job, the team is not going to win. Like everybody has a job to do. So if it's like a 2-person team, that's 50% of the team that's down if you're not performing up to par with your other teammate. So don't be lazy trad women, don't be lazy trad men. And that's where I'm gonna leave this episode. And I'll tune back in another time. By the way, just have to mention, I have to give a shout out to my partner because he was super supportive this last week. And actually, I dropped my first BG, which is boy girl content on my OnlyFans. So like dropped my first like little videos because he decided to co-create with me. Yay for that, right? So, yeah, love a good supportive partner, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. So carry on, y'all. And let me know what you think about that, like how to hold your partner accountable, or how to just like notice like, this might not be a good match. Maybe I should like move on. Like in dating, like when does that happen? So yeah, those are my thoughts for this week, and I will be back again next Monday.